You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com. The biggest names in sports are all on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
All right, and welcome back again. We thank Jonathan Kaplan for coming on, give us our exercise update of the week. And now joining us from the Detroit Lions, currently visiting us here in Israel, Caleb Campbell. How you doing, Caleb?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on Israel Sports Radio. I guess I've seen the Call to Glory and the videos, and I mean I can remember your draft day, probably one of the most famous draft day stories in recent memory. But after all that went through last year, you got to be a Detroit Lion.
Absolutely. There was a little road bump. It took longer than what I initially expected. But overall, it's been a great 3 years, and those couple of years in the military that I served did a lot for me in terms of off the field, and I think it did everything in allowing me to get on the field this year.
Well, after West Point and then all that you went through in your military service, the NFL must seem kind of easy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Training camp, everyone thinks that's like, a gruesome, 4 weeks. And it really just reminded me of a month at West Point, to tell you the truth.
That's awesome.
So it wasn't that bad. The days were, fairly long. It is kind of tiresome, but it's absolutely nothing, that I haven't seen before.
Caleb, Ari Lewis here. Thank you again so much for being on IsraelSportsRadio.com. I got to say that your story, the last time I can remember this happening to an athlete was back the days of David Robinson, when he had to play in the Navy. He went to the Navy, but he was proudly served in the Navy. He could have gotten out of that commitment to play in the NBA, but he stuck with it and served his country. So did you ever look up to David Robinson as a role model and used him as inspiration?
I did, not because of that story, just because of his, character as a person. That's what he was. He was a role model on and off the court, They called him the Admiral for a reason, and he was just a great guy, and I did enjoy looking up to him as I was a younger kid, growing up and, enjoying watching the game of basketball.
So I have to ask, what brings you to Israel?
I've always just, really wanted to come. It was a last-second trip. I'm here with a good friend of mine that does a lot of world traveling, and I called him, I think like on a Tuesday morning. I said, I want to go to Israel. And he said, when? And I said, tomorrow. And then we got on the plane and we headed to Israel. So I've been here for about a week now.
That's great. And just kind of touring around, seeing all the sites. I'm sure our good friend Saeed's taking good care of you.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful country. So much history. A week is not long enough at all to, get everything in. But, of course, Saeed and Iran and the other guys that Saeed has introduced me to, they've been nothing but great to me. And it's been a real pleasure and honor to get to know these guys and get to familiarize myself with this great country. So
let me ask you, I guess it's okay then there's a lockout. It gives you time to do these things.
You know what? You find the good within the bad. It's important to always look at the glass half full and not half empty. And that's, kind of my approach with this whole lockout. I just think it's critical in athletes' life that it's not just about the glory on the field, but it's what you do with that waiting period and how you allow yourself to grow as a person through that waiting period. That's, kind of what allows you to do what you do on the field. And, it's been a great off season for me, and, I am eager to get back on the field, but this waiting period throughout this lockout has been nothing but great.
Now, I want to ask you a question because you obviously went through the Combine experience, and we hear there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on there, the Wonderlic test, all these weird questions. What was the weirdest question you got in the Combine?
I wish I could recall that. They're the Wonderlic kids. There's some of the questions are so easy, you double guess yourself like 10 or 15 times because they're so easy. You don't expect them to be that easy. But I really couldn't give you a specific question off the top of my head.
Did they ask you a question like, if you were going to be an animal, would you be yourself, or what is your name? I think it was one of the questions, what is your name? And a lot of people get stumped on that and think, oh, they must be my nickname or my real essence or my soul name. And they, I mean, you just got to do the best. You're a West Point. You're a smart guy. You know how to answer the questions. Is the key not to outthink yourself?
Absolutely. It's just, you know, you want to show some creativity, but not to try to impress someone. It's kind of like trying to use big words all the time when you're speaking. You just kind of sound stupid after a while. So that is kind of a key point. The questions were also just like a lot of analogy questions, like snow is to winter as what is to autumn or something like that. It's just random questions like that. And you would never guess the questions that they would be asking you. So. But it was kind of funny, though. You definitely see some confused faces looking at paper when I was kind of looking around the room. Couldn't help but chuckle.
Now, we'll ask you, before you take off, we've got to ask you a football question, because the Lions, despite their 6-10 record, had a lot of close games. We're right there, playing in the same division as the world champs now, and the Bears had a decent season as well. So what are your thoughts going into the next season? I mean, you have 4 tough games, you know, for sure, the Packers and the Bears, but you guys had put out a great season last year. The record doesn't show it, but you had a great year. What do you guys think you need to do to get to the next level and make a run in the playoffs?
You're definitely right. The record doesn't show it. Just basically finishing games, you know, or going in and starting a game, which was kind of really plagued us last year. And, you know, just going in and being fundamentally sound. What the thing about the NFL is different from college and high school football is that it's so specific. Everything has to be exactly you know, what you're taught to do is that's what you do. If you have to hit the A gap, you hit the A gap, even though the ball is going to the D gap. And when people try to start making plays that are not their plays to make, that's where you run into problems, and that's kind of what happened to us in the beginning of the season. So if we can just stay fundamentally sound, I think the raw talent on the Lions will just carry over, and we'll win some games.
And we want to wish you the best in Israel. Please feel free to come on the show anytime, like even when you're in Detroit. You know, we know it's a long way, but we'll pay for that phone bill out there, so don't worry about
Absolutely. I'd love to. It'd be my honor.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good one.